Congressman Richard Hanna on the phone, and Merry Christmas to you, Congressman. How are
Hey,
you?
Merry Christmas. It's Richard. How you doing?
Richard, good to talk to you again. And we've saddened by the news that you've decided not to run again for the congressional seat.
Well, thanks for that. Not everybody is. That's okay.
What led to your decision, sir?
You know, it's a simple one for me. When I leave on a Monday or Tuesday morning, and I'm gone for 3-4 nights a week, and then typically a day on the weekend. And I'm 64, and I've got young kids. Got married late. They miss me. They cry when I leave, and they're happy when I get back. And it occurred to me that someday they may not care when I leave and won't care when I get back. So I thought I'd better stay home while they're growing up. You know, you can't rewind the tape on their life, and it's been a great 5 years. I've got a great opportunity going forward for the next year, and a lot on my plate, and I'll make the most of it. So, life goes on.
In the professional world, you mentioned, your family life. What do you think you may do? I know you've been in different businesses prior to becoming a congressman. I know construction was your background there at some point. Do you feel like you'll jump back into a private sector type job?
Oh, yeah. I've always loved being in business. I love being independent. And one of the things you miss in government is you're working with, in my case, 434 other people, and it's hard to get things done. The great thing about being an entrepreneur, just owning your own business, big or small, is you can make your mistakes or do the right thing early in the morning, and you own them, and you can look back at the end of the day and see what you've accomplished. And, being in construction all my life, that was the best part about it. But I don't think I appreciated it until I was forced into a place that doesn't want to get along and doesn't always produce a product that you can measure.
You mentioned some goals for the next year. I know the Zadroga Act has been something near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, we worked on that with a great gentleman out of New York, Peter King, that used to be the chairman of Homeland Security, and all the delegates in New York and New Jersey. And you can tell Beth, the Zadroga Act is fully funded. It's in the omnibus bill, and it's done. So
great.
All those people who were so concerned about it and did a great job of telling people about it and asking for it to be renewed. It should have been, but now it's a done deal.
And the 22nd Congressional District, you're getting out of that seat, if you will, and covers a large portion of our state, Cortland, Madison, Oneida counties, parts of Broome, Herkimer, and so on. Some of the factors that are still facing the district, as you'll still have a year, still be in this seat.
This district goes from Canada to Pennsylvania, and it goes from Herkimer County to the east all the way to Cortland and through Oswego. It's a big landmass, but what does that tell you? It tells you that there used to be 40-something members of Congress in New York. Now there's 27. The state is shrinking, and now we're not growing as fast as other states, and it's not hard to figure out. It's one of the most punitive places to make a living. As much as I love it here and other people do, what do we see? We see young people come here and can't find opportunity and jobs, can't grow older with their families, be near their mothers and fathers, and that's a common theme. New York has the highest everything. I could tick it off for you, but sales tax, property tax, school taxes, and then just the bureaucracy of New York. It's terrible. And we've lost more wealth in New York State in the last 10 years than every other state. So the people that are mobile, that have wealth and have accumulated wealth, they're moving to other places to preserve it, and you can't blame them. New York needs to acknowledge that and turn that around.
New York has had sort of a reputation for corruption. Does that bother you as well as you decide to leave?
Oh, my God. Yes, it does. I mean, I hate to say this, but I'll say it anyway. You look at Albany, and you wonder if they shouldn't throw one of those Spanish wire fences around the whole damn building. I know a lot of members of the Assembly and the Senate, and the people I know, I trust and like and work with well, but when leadership sets a standard, like we've seen with Skelos and Sheldon Silver, what do you really expect? It's a wink and a nod to everybody else, and it's terrible. And New York has had that reputation for a long time. You can only wonder what it's cost its population, how the corruption of Albany has added to the downfall and the decline of New York State.
And Richard, at times you've been congratulated for your stance, other times criticized for your stance as being a moderate Republican in that congressional seat. You know, not afraid to voice your opinion and cross lines if you feel that is the need. And traditionally, the seat held by Republicans, I believe, Mike Alcuri, the only Democrat for quite some time, holding that seat as a Democrat. How do you feel about what may transpire? They're looking at this seat being vacant as an important seat, as I mentioned, you being a moderate Republican.
What's happened? Gerrymandering, which is the way we draw our districts in this country, has become so severely beneficial to either Republicans or Democrats. There are people in Republican seats that all they have to do is get through a primary. And it's the same with the Democratic side. We've lost competitive government through gerrymandering. And one of the great things about a seat like this one, and so many in New York, is they are true swing districts. They can go either way. And I think that's a good thing because it offers an opportunity for people in government, people who have this job, to be who they want to be. And frankly, most people that I've met, or not most, but a lot of them, all they have to do is outright or outleft their competition. They win a primary, and the general elections wind up being all but perfunctory. This one isn't like that. This district demands balance, and I think every district should. But the great thing about the 22nd district and some of the others, I think Mr. Katko's too, to the west, is that they are socially moderate districts, and everybody faces the same fiscal challenges. So, I am who I am. From when I started, it was easy for me to support women's health care and support marriage equality and those kinds of things. I do believe that global climate change is a real issue that we should talk about, things like that. I've been pleased to be able to voice my feelings about them and be one of the one or two people who's been consistent on my side over those issues. But I just wish that we had I wish two things: that there was less government money in government, and that there were more people who were willing to lead and explain their votes rather than take a poll and follow their base. One of the things I do that I know nobody else does down there in the House or Senate, if they do, I'd be surprised to hear about it, but every time we vote on a bill, we write a detailed explanation. My office has written almost 800 of them. So people who are angry or people who are happy about the way I vote, we post them, I think 100% the same day, the same night, and they can go see. So I'm transparent. I've never signed any pledges. My vote belongs to people in this district, not a group of some lobbyists down there. And I was one of two who voted against the government shutdown. I thought it was just ridiculous. I couldn't even fathom why we were doing it. We sat there for 16 days. Yet there are people out there calling for another government shutdown, which thankfully we've avoided. But people have to be more tolerant of one another. If we want to have a peaceful society that offers opportunity for everybody, what we have to realize is that the peace and the rights that I give someone else that I don't object to, even though I might find them profoundly objectionable, are part of the rights that people give me. And like Jefferson said, if it doesn't break your leg or rob your pocket, don't worry about it.
You've tapped into a popular sentiment. It seems like more and more voters are gravitating toward the centrist opinions, too, and common sense things. It's Congressman Richard Hanna joining us in the Talk of the Town, 100.7 FM, WUTQ, of course, exiting next year, not seeking re-election. Our poll question, Congressman, that we've asked folks this week is, who would you like to see take over that seat? And we have Claudia Tenney listed as one of the options since she's already announced her candidacy. We also have thrown in Tony Picenti and Anthony Brindisi and Senator Griffo as other options. It's interesting.
You got Ray Meyer.
Well, not
Kathy Bertini.
Right, exactly. Who would you like to see? What about if you had a vote? Who would you like to see?
Michael Backus.
Yes, we mentioned his name as well.
Let's see, who else? George Phillips. I've known these people, and I give them credit for their ambition. A lot of them are extremely bright people. Ray Meyer is a great guy. Joe Griffo. These are people I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to weigh in. I think it's inappropriate for me to weigh in. I think we have a primary process. There will be a primary. I'm confident, and when the time comes, I'll interject my opinion as I think it's helpful and appropriate. And I'm just going to stay back and watch it all. There are a lot of good people, but what we should do is listen to people. This screaming and yelling over the top of one another, and the insults and the vitriolic nature of politics today. I can tell you I won't support Trump, and I'm not going to support Ted Cruz. But in the local congressional seat, I want to see how it all shakes out, and then I'll decide for myself. And one of the wonderful things about voting is you go to the booth, you pull a lever or fill this circle, and nobody knows. You can do what you want.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, on the national side, you mentioned some of the guys you didn't think you'd support. I can certainly understand that. We were impressed with Marco Rubio in the last Republican debate. What do you think about his candidacy?
I like Marco. I think he's okay. I really want to sit back and watch. You have to take a person in total, and the problem is, like a guy like me, you like some things and you can't stand others.
Right.
I feel that way about all of them. So if you look at the cast of characters on this presidential side, by and large, it's a disappointment.
Yes.
It's hard to wrap your arms around anybody, for me.
And you mentioned that voters will have their choice to make their opinion in the primary, which is scheduled for June 28th. But also interesting, something that we skimmed by earlier was Mike Alkiri, one of the only Democrats in quite some time to hold that seat, and in that beating the Republican former state senator Ray Meyer in an unsuccessful bid in 2006. And here we see Mr. Meyer throwing his hat back in the ring potentially throwing his hat back in the ring. So I think it is interesting, and also interesting the other folks that Dave had mentioned there, all really from our concentrated area, Oneida County, really pretty much.
Well, remember, Binghamton matters a lot.
Yeah.
Southern Tier has some very smart and sharp people, as you could imagine, and George Phillips is one of them, and there are others. This is a kind of job that a lot of people think about, and anybody who pulls the trigger on this and says, I'm running, I give them a lot of credit, because I've been through it 4 times, and I never even imagined in my life I'd have a job like this, let alone pursue it. And I think also anybody who looks at government today and has the wherewithal, not just financially at all, but because you can raise money if you have to, some person out of nowhere could do this too. I like Ray Meyer a lot. I think he's a very bright guy. But there are other people, and I just want to sit back and watch and look forward to a thoughtful debate about the future for our children. This country's in trouble. We've got an $18+ trillion debt, and no clear way to pay it off, and we have desperate need for entitlement reforms, and nobody's willing to talk about what that means. And Obamacare, which is collapsing under its own weight, yet we need health care, and there's 11 million people on it. There's so much to talk about. We got a transportation bill that I worked hard on to get passed, and yet it's woefully underfunded. We need infrastructure. There's so much to talk about and to do. It's a wonderful time to be in government, but it's also a particularly important time for people who are willing to lead, not take polls, and want to take responsibility and willing to lose the job. One of the profound things I've seen about D.C. is for all these guys, it's the best thing they ever had, and they put their interest. I think they'll rationalize it, but put their interest above the community, and instead of saying this is the right thing to do and this is why, taking the risk of losing an election, they say, what do you want me to do? And they go do it. And if they're from some extreme number of district, either Republican or Democrat, you wind up with people representing the extremes, and there's no room in the middle. But I can tell you from my experience, the best ideas are a few degrees, 10, 20 degrees right and left of center. And that's why I've been successful down there. I work with people. I've made a lot of friends that were well respected. My first 2 years, I didn't know this business. And we had more work pass the floor, become law than all the other 90-something members. Simple things, nothing complicated, but I got the best staff. And in D.C., we get back to everybody in 48 hours. We've written over 200,000 letters to folks responding, and we turn it into a real job. And when it's a real job, it's not fun. You don't go down to the floor and bark at each other. What we do is I spend my days on the phone looking at different things and opportunities, working with people, and traveling to businesses. Rome Labs' budget's up $32 million this year. It's been up every year. We have a 404 permit for the Nano Center now, which Tony Paseni and others worked on with Edge, and we did too. It was one of the first things I did. The bill-paying arm of the Army, DFAS, 1,000 jobs, is safe today because of legislation we put in the National Defense Reauthorization Act. And I worked with Chuck Schumer, like on Centro, our bus line. That lost its funding a few weeks back. My office, overnight, Andrew Brady and my office got 60-something members of Congress in the 8 states, including the District of Columbia, involved. And we pushed back on that. We said, we're not going along with this omnibus bill if this isn't fully funded in the transportation bill. And it is. It saved Utica $500,000. It saved Syracuse a couple of $1 million a year. And so we make things happen by finishing what we start.
Congressman Richard Hanna joining us on the Talk of the Town 100.7 FM WUTQ. Your kids, Emerson and Grace, are they into the Star Wars phenomenon? What are they expecting?
They're not at all.
Yeah. Christmas, what are they expecting from Santa this year? What's going on?
My wife is the most grounded person I know, and there'll be a full tree of stuff, but mostly we're just, partly because of this job. I think the counterpoint to me being away so much is that when I'm home, it's really good. So you wonder, when I'm home all the time, will they get bored and not? It won't be as good. But right now, it's just wonderful to be in your own house and have my life in order. I meet people every day who are struggling and so much hardship and fear and anxiety. You look at ISIS and all these things happening around the world, and people are uncomfortable and uncertain. And this country has always been a place where opportunity was there if you just worked. And people aren't as sure that it is anymore. And I think it is, and I think we're coming back, and I feel very good about the future. But I fully respect and understand those people who say to themselves they're mad at government because everything they thought was there for them isn't there for their children. I get it, and I respect it. And I'm not upset with anybody. And I have no reason or right to be. I try hard to listen and try to understand. And if I could say anything about this job for me personally, it has broadened my view of people, the world, and opinions. People that I probably would have been dismissive of 5-6 years ago, I desperately try to listen to and understand and appreciate. And it's made me a better person, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Richard, with that being said, you mentioned some things that we still need to look at. Infrastructure. I know New York is looking to get their fair share. Our Senator Joe Griffo asking that upstate get its shot at some of the money for different projects that are needed. Your last year here, what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, there are opportunities. We increased the ability of local communities of over 200,000 people to apply directly, not to go through the state government for government money. We have set up through a bill I wrote, again, Andrew Brady in our office, and on transportation. I'm a senior member on transportation in New York. Up to 10% of the money that comes to New York now will go into a bank to allow local governments to apply for loans and leverage it in other ways. So one of the problems with New York is so much of the money winds up going downstate. And upstate, we don't get nearly what we should. And yet the mass transit doesn't pay a dime into itself. It gets an enormous amount of money from the federal government. But upstate, we pay the highway tax. We pay the gas tax. And in New York State, we pay a sales tax on the federal tax. Figure that out. Those are the things that we've done to help states like New York. New York will actually get more than it pays in. It'll get about $8.1 billion over the next 5 years, and that's a good number. So I wish Joe Griffo well. I think we should demand that we get a bigger piece of the pie, and it seems like downstate, the only time they give a damn about us is when there's an election.
Right.
Statewide election,
Right. Well, Richard, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it, and I hope to see you around Bag Square over the holidays there, and have a great time with your family.
Hey, and thanks for your time, too, and Merry Christmas to everyone.